Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. We're still at WCQ season. I still a few nationals that have not concluded yet before the World Championships starts, both in the Asian area and in the Eastern area and the Midwestern area as well. Like we still have the North American Nationals that hasn't happened. We still have Germany Nationals that's coming really soon, and the format is kind of diverse. Like, even though we do have some decks that are pretty much like selling points in the format, their format is still like very adaptive. A lot of strategies can change overnight. And something very interesting is like we're in a format where mid-range decks are more popular than heavy combo decks, which is something we don't see often in a format. That could all change very soon. It's very soon to tell, but for now, like outside of something like Sprite and Dragon Link, you're probably not going to see a deck that's going to have a very high combo ceiling, which is really good for the game because it gives like the lower rogue-ish type decks a chance to thrive and to do well at events. So what I'm going to showcase today is a deck profile. This is a strategy that I kind of like experimenting with every time a format starts. I pretty much give this deck a chance for like 1 week, and then depending if by the second week I test this deck is still like really good, I kind of put it in like a foothold as a deck I can recommend for the format. So far, if you already seen like this channel already, you already know that Scareclaw Adventure Cashtira is like my deck choice for this format, and like it's been really hard to find something close to that I've been enjoying a lot. However, I do have a deck strategy which I'm gonna showcase right now that I have enjoyed a lot of times in the past. It's really fun, and in the right hands this can top an event, because not many people know how to play through this deck. This deck can play a lot of non-engine cards. This deck has a lot of strategies and a lot of synergy with other archetypes. You're gonna see a hybrid of this deck right now. And yeah, like I guess I'll showcase the deck and then I'll go with explanations as we go along. But the deck I'm going to profile today is Adamancipator. So why Adamancipator? Adamancipator is basically an example of a deck that is pretty much all gas, no brakes. Back when Block Dragon was around, the deck had a really powerful grind game, and it had a really powerful end board. And what made the deck really unfair was not the end board that the deck made, it's the fact that it had enough follow up and it had a monster that curses that gives it so much card advantage that it pretty much can overwhelm almost anything the opponent can ditch. Without the existence of Block Dragon anymore, this deck has lost a lot of steam. It pretty much became like a turn 0 deck. Pretty much the games of this deck are decided by the first turn, whether you go first or second. But it has a lot of explosive cut potential. It has a lot of like it can push through boards really good with its engine, which is something we don't see in a lot of decks. And like as you will see, the way I'm building this deck, it has a really high ceiling, with a lot of side engines as well. And I feel like it is very soon to tell, but if this deck is very built properly, it can even win an event, like in the current format that we're at right now. Now I'm gonna showcase the list. We have 3 Analyzer, 3 Researcher, 3 Seeker. This is standard. If you're playing Adamancipator, you play all 9. TLDR, these all excavate 5 cards from the top of your deck, and if you excavate a rock non-tuner level 4, you special summon it. You can only use each name for turn, and they all can special summon themselves under one condition. This one is if only your opponent controls monsters. This one is if you control a rock monster, and this is if you control an Adamancipator monster. But yeah, pretty much really strong extenders. So the cards you're trying to excavate with these, that you're trying to hit every single time, are 3 Supplier, 3 Guardian, 3 Doki Doki, 3 Cartherin. So I'll explain the rock. This one, what it does is if a rock leaves the field, you can like goes to a graveyard from the field, you can special this from hand, and if this card is summoned, you special summon specifically, you can tutor this card to your hand. What this one does is if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can tribute this card and negate the activation and destroy it. This card is really, really strong because it makes it so your opponent pretty much has to contest to this card whether you're trying to combo off. The other condition of this card specifically is that in the end phase you have to reveal a rock, otherwise this destroys itself. So really, really strong. Doki Doki, you pitch a rock from your hand, you special a rock from your deck that has the same attribute and type as the rock you discarded, either in face-up attack or face-down defense. So pretty much another extender. Sometimes you can pitch like Kowaki Analyzer or this to summon another copy of this, and it's really, really strong. Or you can do any rotation to summon anything you need. So for example, if you have extra Kowakis, you can summon Analyzer. If you have extra Analyzers, you can summon extra Kowakis. If you special the Resupplier out of Doki's effect, whatever you pitched out of Doki, you recur it back with the Guardian. So you're going plus in card advantage. And then the last non-tuner rock we play is Cartherin. What Cartherin does is you can pitch it from your hand, and during this turn, you can have an additional normal summon for an earth or a water attribute monster. It's very important that it says the attribute and not the type, because as you will see later in this deck, I am playing other earth monsters that are not actually rock. You won't see any other water monsters, but in the off chance you do play water monsters, this card is really good for that. The second effect is if you control an earth and a water on the board, it can even be extra copies of itself, you can special summon this from graveyard, but it vanishes if it leaves the field. So it's pretty much just another body. It has really, really good synergy with this deck. It also is really, really strong because if your normal summon gets stopped, you can pitch this and then you can normal summon something else, keep extending, and then if this is in your grave, you can special summon it. It's just, you're slowly but surely applying more and more pressure to your opponent. And this goes back to what I've said about Adamancipators, as this is a really strong YOLO deck. Pretty much like you're either pushing through boards or like making strong boards, because you easily can get to a lot of bodies on the board very easily. So that's it for the rocks. Now we're going with another engine that's not Adamancipator, but it's an engine that has really, really good synergy with Adamancipator itself, and that is the Superheavy Samurais. So specifically 3 Motorbike, 3 Wakauchi, the Big Ben, Soul Gaia Booster, and Soul Claw. So why these specifically? So for those who already know about Superheavy Samurais, Before they had like a lot of one card starters. They had like pretty much around 12 to 17. And the purpose behind that is because they all get you through the same inboard result. Another samurai that I thought about playing is the wagon, because the wagon can also get you to like the rest of your engine, and wagon is another level for earth that you can normal summon. And if you open Cartharin, remember when I said that Cartharin makes it so you can have an extra normal summon for earths. You can normal summon the wagon as I mentioned, or you can summon motorbike, or you can normal summon the soul monsters if you don't open like a samurai to equip these with. So the reason for Gaia Booster and Soul Claw specifically, and no other names, are because this can make a rank 4 without your normal summon, and this can make you a Synchro 6, which is really important because there are 2 Synchro 6s in the extra deck that are kind of crucial for this strategy, and Soul Claw with Wakauchi enables that. And adding to that, it makes it so you can scale the Wakauchi so you have full pendulum skills alongside that specific synchro that I'm talking about. So that's it for the samurais. And the last monster engine that I'm playing, and this is a very unorthodox one, but it works, is I'm playing Sprights. Specifically, I'm playing 3 blue, 1 jet, 1 red, and the one card I'm gonna talk about, which kind of helps this strategy, and it's a little unfortunate that we kind of have this strategy in the game, but you know, people do try to find as many avenues for them to like have as much advantage in this format as possible, and the one card I'm talking about is Nightmare Corrupt Terribly. So yeah, pretty much TLDR, if you've noticed the deck by now, you pretty much know that like Soul Claw, Motorbike, Cartharin, Doki, Seeker, and Researcher. We're talking about a lot of level 2 monsters. So it pretty much has natural synergy with Sprights themselves. Sprite is another engine that kind of pushes through interruptions as well. It kind of forces your opponent into playing into them as well, specifically. So this just goes all back to what I was saying earlier. Like, you want to push as farther as possible turn 1 with this deck. You don't want to reach the late game with this deck. You pretty much just want to overwhelm your opponent with whatever you're making on the board, and this deck does it very, very consistently, which is the reason why we're playing all these side engines with little to no worries. And then I guess I'll talk about this last spot. So I have Santa Claus, Veiler, Nib, Shifter. These can be any hand traps. You don't have to play these specifically. The reason I tried these is because I am playing Small World, and also Small World is the only spell card in my deck, which kind of gives away the last card. But I wanted real good synergy with my main deck, but at the same time I kind of wanted very high impact cards that function with them. I tried Veiler, even though it's not a high impact hand trap, because Veiler is not once per turn. Veiler being a light monster means it could turn itself into Nibiru, which means it could turn itself into like any rock monster. And even though it does conflict with Shifter, the main purpose for Shifter is almost the same function as Veiler. You just want to shut down your opponent's turn if they're not playing Kashtira. But yeah, like these can be anything. You can play Ghost Bell, Drone Lockbird, like Ash Blossom, Droll. You already mentioned Droll. You can even one card I contemplated on playing was Ciphering Gear Gamma and Driver, even though they're one of. Um, like that's another option that I thought about. Um, but yeah, I chose 10 non-engines specifically. Um, I feel like even though you don't see these frequently enough, you might see them in a good amount of time without it conflicting with your main engine, like as a whole. One issue that a lot of people always have when it comes to playing like too many hand traps is the fact that is a way higher likelihood of you opening your multiple hand traps than it is to you opening your engine, and that's something that will happen often, more often than not. But I chose this ratio of cards, and if you haven't made the math by now, we're talking about 46 monsters, 3 spells and 1 trap, and I'll pretty much show you the trap is double cross. Um, I feel like 50 is a really good ratio for a deck like this. Like it makes it so you don't see your bricks as often. You have a lot of play starters in this deck. You have a lot of multiple ways to combo. So I realistically you shouldn't be breaking with this deck enough times. Um, this deck is pretty much a one turn deck, as I mentioned beforehand, so you pretty much just want to make sure that you try to push through the board with whatever you're making as much as you can. I really like Double Cross, especially in a deck like this one. The real cool thing about Double Cross, and I think I brought it up when I did the Cosmo deck profile, is that this card essentially has 4 effects, if you truly think about it. Like it can attach a monster, it can reborn a monster, or it can take control of one monster, pretty much. Like it's just too many things in one card. And what the cool part about the reborn effect is that it doesn't have to specify what monster you do. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have Herald of Arclight, and you do have a Link monster, a Link 2 monster. You can negate with Herald of Arclight, then you can double cross and reborn back the Herald of Arclight. I did that multiple times in the past. I've done it with other monsters as well, as you will see in the deck. But yeah, that's pretty much the explanation. Going second, you probably want to play something like Smashers instead of this. However, the issue with playing Smashers is you need a Sprite card in your graveyard or in your hand. And since I'm not playing that many Sprite cards, is the likelihood of you resolving Smashers is less than likely than the amount you would resolve with Double Cross. But yeah, that's pretty much my main consensus, like with the main deck. As I said, it's 50 cards. You can scale it down to 40. You can play other engines. You can just play Adamancipator itself if you want to. But in testing, I've been liking like all the ratios of the cards itself. The one thing I say you should try to be as flexible as possible with is your hand trap ratio. And also, in case people don't notice, like Santa Claus, I chose Santa Claus instead of a kaiju because it has 1200 attack, and having 1200 attack means that you can small world it, being like the middleman for Adamancipator Seeker, because Seeker has 1200 attack. Also, Shifter has 1200 attack, so it's pretty much the same deal. Sadly, you cannot Shifter into Santa Claus, and you cannot Santa Claus into Shifter because they're both level 6s, and they both share 1200, so they share more than one thing in common, which is odd but funny enough. but it is another option. Another really cool thing about Shifter is it makes it so you can small world into your super heavy samurai cards without having the restriction of small world being the graveyard. So that's another like head canon thing that I thought of when I put this. That's it for the main deck. Extra deck is super flexible, as you can see here. These will be like a lot of options. This is not a standard extra deck. These are stuff that I've tested around with, and some ones I've been liking more than others. But I'm going to share regardless. So for synchros, we have Arclight, Raptite, Leonite, Crystal Wing, Axel, Dragite, Baron. For SICs, we have Sprite, Mannequin, Gallon Granite, Zeus. For Link monsters, we have Nightmare, IP, Equimax, Boral Savage, Boral Sword, my bad. There is a lot of options. Like, I'm going to show you a few examples of options that you have. I'm going to mention other examples that I probably not have on me, but are also good options you can play. Like, you can play Appaloosa, you can play Abramax. I really like Abramax because against the Runic Life Twin deck, the only out is the Trouble Sunny, the Link 4. Outside of that, they pretty much don't have an out to this, which is really, really strong and really funny. Beat Cop, the Griffin, because I'm playing Ibly, Dweller, Exiton, Cloud Beast, Sword Soul, Omega, Dispatter, and there are other ones, like, let's see if you can find them. There's stuff like Unicorn, Access Code, Underworld Goddess. Those are just like a small myriad examples of other cards you can play. But yeah, this is a very flexible extra deck. Obviously, your end boards will change depending on what engines you play and what routes you take. One typical end board that I've been doing a lot is pretty much ending on one end board that is very particular that I've been ending on a lot is IP, Double Cross, with Phoenix, Phoenix, Crystal Wing, and Arclight. Like, this is an end board that I've been doing up a little bit, and it's pretty cool because if you have to negate with Arclight, you can double cross it back. If you give them Ibly, like the Nightmare Corruptor, and they try to crash into it, something really cool you can do is you can double cross back the Ibly, then use IP to link away the Ibly into another Link monster, and then give back the Ibly to your opponent. That's another option you can do. If they try to normal summon something else, for them to like link away with the Ibly, you can use double cross and you just put it on their side and having them still be stuck on Ibly. If you play Beat Cop, it makes it extra annoying because it makes it so they cannot crash the Ibly either. So it's pretty much forcing them on having to link one to out it. But yeah, that's pretty much like a little bit showing like something that I've been working around with. This has been a lot of fun. The deck is surprisingly consistent enough for you to see like what you want to do with it. Um, it's by no means a meta strategy. It's not a strategy I think is going to be like format defining, but it is a lot of fun. It is very flexible. Post Battles of Legend, this deck actually gets stronger because of Assault Synchron. So Assault Synchron makes it so this deck has a lot more lines, like at least for making synchros and like extending your boards. Um, like it gives this batter like even more synergy, which is kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, that's it for the deck. I hope you enjoyed. Uh, this is a very open format. There's a lot of strategies that are still roaming around, but this one was one that I was really passionate about, and I kind of just wanted to share it with you. Um, but yeah, keep practicing and keep dueling.